1250 AM, W280NP, Silver McDowell County, Marion, and Old Fort.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The United States and Iran have opened indirect talks over Tehran's nuclear program. Oman's foreign minister acted as a mediator between the Americans and the Iranians in the Omani capital where the talks took place. Family of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie is renewing a plea for their mother's kidnapper to contact them. Nancy Guthrie's son Cameron posting a second plea on social media on behalf of the family. 3 people were killed, 6 others injured after a 92-year-old driver collided with a bicyclist and slammed into a grocery store in Los Angeles. Investigators say it was a tragic accident. The U.S. has hit another alleged drug-running boat in the Eastern Pacific. And U.S. Southern Command says 2 people, alleged narco-terrorists, were killed in the strike. More details, srnnews.com.
Maybe this is you, too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven you can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE.
The Carolina Swap Shop, weekdays at 10 a.m. Bigfoot Country. .25BD, Statesville.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Attorney General Bondi says...
The following program is a paid advertisement and does not necessarily represent the views, opinions, or endorsements of Signal Hill Media Partners, its affiliate stations, or its advertisers.
Say what you want.
Welcome to We're Just Sayin' with Senator Vickie Sawyer and co-host David Coble. Join them each week as they provide the latest updates on legislation affecting North Carolina, from breaking down key bills to answering your live call-in questions. Senator Sawyer and David engage in meaningful conversations on the issues that matter most to our state. No matter your political affiliation, We're Just Sayin' keeps you informed and involved in the efforts to make North Carolina a better place for everyone. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning. And as you can tell from listening to your radio this morning, I am not Vickie Sawyer. And the person to my left is not David Coble. So,
no.
So this is, my name is Todd Carver, and I'm here with Lisa Meyer. And is it Meyer or Myers?
Meyer. Yeah.
Meyer. So,
Meyer. Mm-hmm.
Like Oscar Meyer.
Yeah, that's right.
And so Vickie had asked us to fill in this morning. Vickie's off doing a little family time today, and we hope Vickie's having a great time. Vickie, I don't know, she's just been such a she's been very, very helpful to me. I will say that all through, and this goes back to way before she was a senator, or way before I was in the in the House of Representatives. That Vickie has always been somebody I could bounce an idea off of and get an honest, earnest response every time. And so I'm just very appreciative of that relationship I've been able to build with Vickie over the years. So,
yeah, agree.
Yeah, she's helped a lot of people, myself included, to get into politics, and I think and to do it better. So do it better, deliver a better service for folks. So my name's Todd Carver. I represent Mooresville in the North Carolina General Assembly and Southern Iredell County, and joined here today with Lisa Meyer, and she's a candidate for Iredell County Commissioners. Mm-hmm. And Lisa, take a few moments and just introduce yourself to the audience and
sure.
let them know a little bit about you.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here on this platform, and hopefully get to do it with Vickie again someday. So, but thank you, Todd. So, yeah, a little bit about me. I'm going to start with my business background. I have led quite a few large organizations in my career, both in a publicly traded and privately held environment. Those organizations were global in scope, so I had global teams outside the U.S. And in particular, a couple of them were high tech. So you have most of your team, about 2/3 of my team resided in Asia. So lots of time traveling across the water. It sounds fun and glamorous, but when you put that kind of miles on a plane, it's not. It's nothing to brag about. You just want to go home and be with your family. But so I did that for several years. Also had an opportunity to start my own consulting business here in town. So just that experience, I'm putting forward the business experience. I'm also involved locally on a couple boards. I'm on the Iredell County Planning Board, the United Way Board of Directors, and then I've been helping the chamber. So right now in a co-president role for the Greater Statesville Chamber of Commerce. So that's all been great. So it's a little bit about my background, and I'm excited to put that forward. And then a little bit about my family. We moved here in 2014. I had taken a role with a company that asked us to Atlanta, and we knew right away, while we like Atlanta, that didn't feel like home. So we started looking, and we looked for probably a year at different locations off and on, and found this beautiful community in Iredell County, and that's what brought us here initially. So it's all about the quality of life and all the different opportunities that this area offers, from north of Charlotte, so you can get there, to to the mountains, to the beach, to the lake, the beautiful farms up north. So lots of opportunity. I have 2 children. One is graduated from UNC Charlotte, and she works down there just west of Charlotte at Corning. And then I have a son that's still in the school system. So he is a junior at Lake Norman High.
Oh, wow.
Lots of energy, keeps me young. Lots of battles about life and what he wants to do, and I love the big views and a lot of energy. Yeah,
to be a junior in high school.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of nothing. They're invincible. They can do whatever. You know how it works.
It's a great time in life.
It is a great time in life. It's a great time.
So you brought up several things there. Yeah. I mean, we're just really, really blessed, really fortunate to live in Iredell County.
It's beautiful.
I mean, it really is beautiful, and not just us who think so. People all across the country are sharing this view. I saw a thing. Heard Kurt Ballard say the other day that Mooresville is one of the fastest growing communities in the entire United States.
That's correct. Yes, it is.
North Carolina has repeatedly been one of the best places to start a new business. Mm-hmm. And then back to what Kurt was saying, something like 340 businesses started last year in Mooresville. You think about that. I mean, that's almost a new business every single day of the year.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of folks who are picking North Carolina, and a lot of reasons for that, but the quality of life that caused you to pick, Iredell County is really important.
The key driver,
key factor for a lot of folks. Because I mean, let's get down. I mean, if you can have a great job and you can make great money, but if you don't have a great quality of life to go with it, most people are just not going to take that.
All for naught. Yeah, that's right.
They're not going to take that. There's
a
reason that you decided not to move to Hotlanta.
Yeah, no. Hey, when we're talking about traffic, I have a pretty good benchmark to talk to.
Yeah. People just think it's all relative.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, one thing I wanted to mention before we get carried away talking and I forget to do my primary job today. My primary responsibility was to mention that the Farm Bureau of Iredell County is going to be hosting a candidate forum.
Yes.
And all of the candidates, I think there's 6 Republican candidates and even a Democrat candidate. And I spoke to Doug Holland last night, and he said that all had agreed to attend, and unless there's some kind of last-minute scheduling conflict, anticipating having 7 candidates there.
Yes.
And that's going to be on Thursday, February the 12th, so a week from yesterday, at 6:30 p.m. at the Ag Center over there on Bristol Drive. And if y'all help me remember to announce that one more time at the very end, I want to make sure that people know about that because it's important.
Yes, it is.
It's really, really important for people to know as much as possible about the candidates and about what their vision and what they have to offer, because the county commissioners are the ones who that county tax rate.
Yes,
and that's really probably one of the biggest negotiable taxes, I guess you could say.
Biggest hot topic.
Yes, of all.
Yeah.
And most people don't realize that that's done at the county level. And, there's been a lot of talk about that down at the General Assembly, and I'm trying to take a look at that and make sure that we're doing that fairly. And, and I'm always thinking, it's not necessarily a problem we have in Iredell, because I feel like we probably are well ahead. We've had a reputation for many years of having one of the lowest effective tax rates in North Carolina, other than coastal, the vacation communities who can, tax the tourists. So we've been able to benefit from that. So take just a minute and just talk to me about why you decided to run for county commissioner, Lisa.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you. So you're touching on some sensitive components that have driven the answer for me as to why I'm running. So there is, and it goes back to the quality of life you were just talking about. And there's a point in I think, a person's life where they take their experience and it kind of collides with the passion for something. And you say, hey, what can I bring? And what do I believe in? And what do I want to do? That kind of motivates you to step in. And so that's where I am in my life and my career, right? I have all this experience. What can I do? And I'm quite passionate about the reason that we came here is just quality of life, but maintaining that quality of life based on what our expectations are. And they're different. Everybody's expectation on that balance is different. But from my perspective, you have all this great growth, but that growth is creating a lot of challenges. So, and that's where the sensitivity comes because, with growth, now we have infrastructure challenges, our traffic, our roads aren't wide enough, and we can go through the list. The schools are busting at the seams. Safety services can't keep up. There's a lot of sensitivity around this fire study information that came out. So it's that was really the driver that says, okay, I love the quality of life here. We're growing at an accelerated pace, but we're challenged to keep up with what needs to support that growth, which will eventually create a pretty big gap for us that we'll start to feel that impacts that quality of life, what you define today or what I define today. If we're not keeping up with understanding how that growth is impacting all these support pieces, we're going to get behind the 8 ball like we have been with the infrastructure, the roads. Yeah. So that's my comment. I guess it's probably the biggest driver on why. Plus, I love the community. So
yeah, well, I mean, because this is much like being at the General Assembly, nobody does it because of the fantastic benefits.
Yeah, well, paying benefits, no.
So it's,
which is interesting to me because it's a big job. It's a
labor of love.
Yeah, it
really
is. And you're making decisions that impact. I mean, I'm a resident now, but those decisions are impacting me. These decisions will impact everybody here. So it's incredibly important that you have a love for it and that you are willing to dig down and understand the details that drive the decision. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think if Vickie was sitting here today, she would want us to point out about the, specifically in House District 95, down there where I represent and where you live as well. There's about $500 million worth of road construction projects that
yes.
And I know that sometimes we look at that and we're like, man, I'm so tired of seeing orange barrels, but
slowly getting there.
We got to realize that, hey, those were hard fought for dollars.
Yeah,
I mean,
slowly getting there.
And folks like Vickie fought hard for us to get those dollars to be able to build that infrastructure and so
yeah. So bite our tongue now because it'll be better, right?
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. And those are I guess that's the price for progress.
Yes, that's right.
To move it forward.
Yes.
So looking forward for that. What would you like to see done differently if you're elected?
Well, there's several opportunities, right? The one that is probably most interesting to me is as I learn and listen, there's a lot of comments about transparency. And so I was really trying to understand what that means by definition. What is transparency and what are we talking about as far as scope of transparency? And so and I've mentioned this before, I looked up the budget because it's available, it's online, and you can see, here's the budget and all the line items. What seems to be missing is behind that budget. So each line item takes schools, for instance, in the funding. So you have federal, state, and local funds, right? So those local funds, it's a line item on there. But what happens behind the line item? How is that allocated out? What does that mean? And how do we benchmark that? So each time a change happens, we can understand the impact of that change. Yeah. So that's what I would say I think is the most opportunistic, just to create a baseline and help create that baseline so that going forward, anyone can actually see why the funds were shifted to a different bucket, what that means when you create a budget for the next year. Have you taken that in consideration? Have you shifted it back? I mean, so those components, I call it a straw man, actually mapping how that goes in a visual, draw the lines and show it so that you create the baseline from which you can continue to build and make smart decisions. So it's probably the one I'm excited to get involved in to help people understand. So transparency conversation starts to go away, and now it's conversations about facts that can create different thought processes on decision making.
Right. And I think most people, once they're able to find the information that they're looking for, there's not as much disagreement there as folks, because there's really limited amount of what you can do with some of these pots of money.
Well, and this is your sweet spot. So, if you have more to elaborate, schools, you can do it with each line item on the budget, but schools in particular, there's so much debate about it. We're busting at the seams, do we want to, what does the bond do for, but really tracking that so that people can feel comfortable that smart decisions are being made to address our challenge, I think is a critical point or opportunity for us.
When I first got elected to the school board, I worked with Bowen Nutting on this, and I really insisted on, I wanted us to have a pie chart.
Yes.
To show the revenue and the expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it all comes from. This is our state pot, this is our federal pot, this is our local pot.
Sure.
And then what did it get spent on?
Yes.
And, overwhelmingly, the largest expense, for the district is paying its staff. I mean, you have about 2,500 staff there. So,
yes.
Once people can look at that and digest it and understand, they sort of start to make a lot more sense. It starts to come together. But if you can't find it and you feel like it's hid under a rock somewhere, as the name of the show goes, just saying, you're going to be challenging, hey, that doesn't make any sense to me, and why is that the way it is? So, I think for us as in government, it's imperative that we put that out. I mean, we're spending other people's money.
That's right.
You know, and I like to tell folks when they come into my office, you know, and they're asking, well, we only need, you know, this or X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, but you got to understand, in order for me to give that to you, we have to first take it from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's you know, it's so obvious, but it's an important hurdle for people to understand that.
So let's stay on that note, though. When you say that, to give it, you have to take it. Sometimes those decisions have to be made for you know, whatever the situation is or situational. But tracking that so people see it. So when the question comes up again, you know, you can go back and refer. I did make this decision for these reasons. And so for that, we want to move it back next year or whatever that conversation is. But it's hard to follow the map because the map does and doesn't exist in some cases. It depends on the topic and the subject. But
And I totally agree with you that it needs to be, you know, something that people can find. It needs to be something that's searchable.
Yes.
I mean, and believe me, I'm not living in a glass house here. I realize the state budget is probably the least
transparent,
discernible object you'll find. So I'm not trying to throw rocks at anybody here. I'm just saying that was one of the things that I recognized, just saying, that I recognized when I got elected to the school board was, hey, we've got to do this. And because it buys you credibility with your constituent base. Because
absolutely.
They can then see what it is you're doing with their money. So I think that's really important.
And it makes the conversation so much more beneficial because you're not trying to debate what they can or can't see. You actually have now the same information and you can start to talk about or debate, you know, what to do differently. And so I think that's kind of where we are stuck a lot of times is they're talking from blind spots because they can't see it. And, you know, you may be talking from your knowledge because you're in those conversations. But if people can't follow the trail, it makes it really hard to get people aligned to move forward.
So it's like one of the primary questions I get, you know, say in the last 6 months or maybe or more is, well, you know, why don't we have a state budget? Why don't we have a state budget? And then so I'll start down this road of trying to explain the tax triggers problem that we have in North Carolina right now and why that is not just so easily solved. And so that is, you know, I can totally relate to trying to explain it in a way. And sometimes, you know, I'm trying to explain it to folks who I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, you've been in the General Assembly.
Okay.
You know, so I can certainly understand why one of my grandparents wouldn't understand it. You know, if I was trying to explain it to them, or why my mom would have difficulty understanding it, because it's really just it's not as simple as it should be. You know, this issue with the tax triggers, I tell people all the time, there's not disagreement that it needs to be changed. The tax triggers that were adopted in 2022 and 2023 do not have an allowance for inflation in them or population growth. Well, it's just a fact of life that you can't do as much with $30 billion if you've got 10 million people in North Carolina as you can with 11 million people in North Carolina. And we're going to have more resources to provide those services, just like at the county.
The gap.
level.
That's what I'm saying.
That service gap.
Yeah, it's true. It's you know, we have to be very smart and diligent. And when we're talking about tax, Todd, so this is something else that I think is an opportunity for us to educate people on all the different tax options. Because when you say tax, immediately there's a defensive position that comes up because, you know, you don't want to be impacted by. But there's different approaches to take that may not impact our residents directly. And so if we can spend some time talking about those options and doing a little more education, we might find people buy into something they don't see impacting them directly, but they understand the benefit of the additional, you know, occupancy tax is one. And I'm really interested in impact. You know, the impact fees. I understand that, and that could be a potential for funding, but that's a whole different challenge in North Carolina. But can we take the similar concept and provide an option that might feel similar to impact fees. So
Find a
I
way
throw
to
that out.
tweak
Yeah. Just because I'd love the debate and conversation to happen to see what
Vickie,
that is.
and I know because I've sat in that seat and had Vickie sit in this seat and her explain to me that, impact fees are found unconstitutional
in North Carolina. It's interesting.
So that's an important reminder for folks because not everybody knows about that. But there may be a way that it could be tweaked.
Just to take the concept and can we do something different with the concept? Because I did and you have to be careful the validity of the data, but in a quick search, there's like over 20 some states that have impact fees. So there's something that's valuable there. If we can understand the value of that and how we might apply it here, that we don't bump up against what's, not right for North Carolina based on our laws, but there could be a creative way to do it. So,
and we have a different composition of our Supreme Court now than when that decision was made, and so it may be a different decision. That's the beauty of the court is you can make a different verdict at a different time. So. You
and Vickie are going to be much more educated than I on the topic, but even for myself, as I learn and question. All of our residents, I think, would like to go along that journey to learn and question with us so that we can come up with something that works for here.
I've had several emails of late, people just really wanting to abolish property tax entirely. And when I take a second and I step back and I'm like, hey, you realize that's the county's primary, all 100 counties in North Carolina, that's their primary fund for paying for sheriff's deputies, paying for ambulances, paying for the landfill. I mean, there's a lot of those services. And we can't just say, hey, we're not going to have property taxes anymore. Without, in some form or fashion, that revenue stream would have to get replaced. And, I think the trick here and the thing we're all looking for is to find what's that fairest way.
Yes,
what's the fairest way of implementing that tax so that we get the service we need, yet you're not squeezing the 80-year-old residents out of their homes.
That's right.
And so, I think that right now, and that was one of my next topics was, in the North Carolina General Assembly, there's a oversight committee. There's one in the House and one in the Senate to take a look at, hey, what things can we do legislatively? And, there's a homesteaders, if you only make up to a certain amount of money for a couple, they can be exempt for up to 50% of their tax. If you got specific questions about that, call the Iredell County Tax Office. We can answer those very specifically.
Don't call here. Don't call here.
But the North Carolina General Assembly could maybe adjust that. Maybe the rate is, let's just say it's at $25,000, and maybe it needs to go to $35,000. But we've got to also understand as a General Assembly that if we do something like that, well, now that's less revenue that's going to be coming back to the counties, and that we're squeezing somebody there.
Right.
The money just doesn't fall out. I mean, if we quit taking it from your neighbor, if you lower your neighbor's tax rate, you've effectively raised your own.
Yes.
And so we just got to be careful how we come about that.
Yes. So along those lines, and it doesn't have to be tax specific, but just kind of talking about my approach to leadership and decision making, it is to put all those, I call them what if scenarios, right? I mean, we refer to those scenarios out there and look at the mix of how the pieces and parts come together and what's the net outcome of that, and then do another scenario and do several of those so you can see if you do away with it fully and you create tax buckets this way, can we get to our number? And go through those, options. And I think people, especially, we have a heavy business community here. We have a lot of business leaders, north to south, and they may be in different industries, but the fact is they lead their businesses. There's a lot of brain power here to be able to have input on what those scenarios look like and map that out, even do it. So you have a what if scenario, a couple different ones that look favorable. Project that out over a period of time so you can see with the growth and with the services, what does that model do? Does it keep pace or not? I think it'd be a fun challenge to share with people to talk through.
Yeah. I'm just I'm really interested to see how it plays out at the General Assembly because they're supposed to be making some legislation recommendations on that. I hope
the recommendation part, I think, is key.
Yeah. I mean, is it something we can work together on rather than us just throwing a grenade at somebody?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any value in doing that. So.
Yes. Good.
All right, sounding good. Are we about up against a break? I think we are up against a break. We'll take a couple-minute break, and we'll be right back with you. And thank you for joining us today for Just Saying.
Just Saying.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
We all want more for North Carolina. More boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 Outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives. It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time, you truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the ANC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with this station.
Hey, and welcome back to Just Saying. My name is Todd Carver, and I'm here with Lisa Meyer, a candidate for County Commission, and I am a candidate for the North Carolina House up for re-election, and we're glad you have taken the time to join in with us today. Just want to remind folks that early voting will start next Thursday on the 12th, and that will run through February 27th. So that's like 2.5 weeks there, 12 days of that. And then there's also a Saturday in there. I believe the 21st is a Saturday that you can do early voting on as well. And there are several locations. Let's see, you can go to the War Memorial in Mooresville, Lake Norman Fire Department, the Board of Elections, the CATS Center there in Troutman. They're opening up. And then I think it's the American Legion, up in Harmony are the 5 places that you can do early voting at. And for the early voting, you can really go to wherever's the most convenient for you. They have ballots from all across the county, I believe is how that's always worked in the past. But if you wait until March 3rd, you have to go to your precinct. Your precinct only is where you're allowed to vote at on actual election day, which is March 3rd. And so we want to encourage folks to get out and participate in our democracy. I mean, I think that's an important thing for us to do. I also want to remind folks again of the, if I can get my phone to cooperate here, of the candidate forum being hosted by the Iredell County Farm Bureau. And again, that's on next Thursday, the 12th, the first day of early voting. So you might want to wait till the second day of early voting after you've seen the candidate form and make an informed decision on that. But that's at the Ag Center over there on Bristol Drive, 444 Bristol Drive. And that's at 6:30 in the evening. And if anybody would like more information on that, Doug Holland is the point of contact on that, and he's put his phone number on the flyer. So I'm going to I'll go ahead and pass that along as well. Doug, you're welcome. 704-880-1949. 704-880-1949. And Doug will answer any questions that you have about that form. Hey, Doug appreciates getting the word out. That's the main thing.
Perfect.
So you got to get that out there. So
Remind me to delete my number from your phone.
Hey, let me tell you, one time I did an interview with the Observer back in the days when they had the Iredell neighbors.
Okay.
And on the front page of the Iredell, this is when I was working at the sheriff's office, and they put my phone number on there, and you would be amazed at the phone calls I got there. It was a great week. I was getting lots of
input,
correspondence.
Yeah, input for sure.
Yeah. So that's hey, if you're going to be in public service, you got to put yourself out there a little bit, right? So Lisa, we were talking a little bit about this, and I just want to try as specifically as we can.
Sure.
Let's talk just a few minutes about the housing issues in Iredell County, and not just in Iredell County, but it's a problem all across the state. Housing costs have gone through the roof. And I don't think that's a function of government. I think that's a function of somewhat of supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so just talk just a few minutes about what are some possible solutions or recommendations that we could try to do. And then I'll follow it up with some things that we've done at the General Assembly to try and work on.
Sure. There's lots of ideas. First, we have to really hone in. And so there was a lot of emphasis put on the 2045 Horizon Plan, right? Mm-hmm. Which is supposed to kind of map out where we see the growth pockets. That being said, we have a challenge with kind of sprawl, like the growth happening faster in some of our rural areas. So, I see the conversation really needs to have almost a strategic alignment with our growth plan. So we've already kind of signed off on that. We understand what we envision happening over the period of time. But with that, there's also kind of a strategic positioning that says, let's hone in on these specific areas and really understand what kind of growth we're wanting here. So we want Iredell to have its own unique identity. We don't want just the overflow from Charlotte. That being said, we want to put a lot more emphasis on business, because business brings in a different tax opportunity. And then maybe understanding what our strategy is for business growth, align or understand what that retail or residential growth is going to look like to support and surround that. So I guess that's my quick comments is I would like to talk more about what we're envisioning, which is the Horizon Plan everybody has signed off on, and align it with some very strategic conversation about how we want to target that growth and how because we have several different organizations. EDC is involved in bringing in a lot of that business, right? That would be great. What's happening with the EDC? How does the development or the conversations with developers for all the residential focused areas support and align with that? And what's the tax opportunity we're getting from the businesses, and how does that impact what this residential growth opportunity looks like? So that's a very general statement, but I don't want to really go down to specifics because I'm trying to understand myself how these pockets unfold. But so you can help us educate. So it's lots of opportunity there.
It's really interesting to watch the interplay, the tug and the pull.
Yes.
Here, because at the General Assembly, for instance, we had a presentation by the Home Builders Association, and they'll say, hey, we're 700,000 homes short with the population growth we've got. Home prices, median home prices, gone through the roof. I think something like what was it? I saw that there were only 8 counties left in North Carolina where the average home price was under $200,000.
I'm sure. Yes.
That's very
North Carolina across the board's hot. Yes. Iredell is hot inside of North Carolina, so we get a double hit there.
Double whammy on that.
That's right.
And so, so one side we need to help solve, or we as General Assembly are trying to find ways to be helpful in solving this housing shortage. Mm-hmm. But yet we live in a community that clamors for, hey, we're full.
Stop.
Full.
Exactly. So
at
what's
least slow
that
down.
balance? Yeah.
And so to try to find that balance.
Yes.
And so this last legislative session, there was a bill put forth, and it was largely, at the encouragement of the Home Builders Association.
Sure.
House Bill 765. And it had maybe 26 points in it that really wanted to limit local governments, whether it be municipalities or the counties, ability to slow that growth.
Okay.
And so, I had to. It was
double-edged
sword. I felt like threading a needle there. Hey, this is a problem I want to try to help solve, but we've got to be really careful about how this is going to impact our communities. And so, what I did was I met with the planners, Matthew Todd, from the county, and then I met with the folks from the town of Mooresville, and just said, "Hey, take a look at this list, and give me 3 or 4 things here that you think you could live with." That were not so, would not have a detrimental impact on our community, because that's what we're looking for. And they gave that back to me, and we were able to come up with a couple of things, and the General Assembly ended up passing a few of those.
Excellent.
That if a builder comes before the county commission and the commissioners do not approve their plan, and they may say, hey, it's because of X, Y, and Z. It would get kicked back to the developer. Well, the developer now fixes those.
Yes.
X, Y, and Z have been fixed. Some jurisdictions had a moratorium, and some of them were up to 2 years. You couldn't bring that back. Like, hey, I fixed X, Y, and Z. Now I'm ready to come back to you again. And so we eliminated that
2-year period. Yeah.
That pause that you were going to have to take.
So they can come back immediately.
Now, if you didn't fix X, Y, and Z, and you just bring it back to us, and you just paid a new filing fee, and you didn't get what you needed still.
Yes.
So, there's no advantage in anybody doing that. But to try and I have experienced that probably 90% of the problems you can tie back to about 5 counties.
Oh, probably. Okay.
Your Wake, your Durham, your Buncombe, and your Mecklenburgs. Sometimes you'll get Guilford in there, but we just got to be really careful letting the tail wag the dog.
Absolutely. This should be for us, for Iredell. That's right.
Right. But we've got to figure out a way to do it that works in the context of what's also good for the whole state of North Carolina. Because I can assure you there are a lot of communities out there who would love to have the problems we have of growth and the needing the infrastructure. You go down east some places and there's 4 and 6 lane roads, and it seems like there's hardly anybody on them. And we got to address some of that too. So, and I think that's one of the things. I know Vickie was on a transportation oversight committee this week, and they were taking a look at some of that as well, trying to figure out.
Well, it's interesting if just talking about the growth in this county. You mentioned Durham and Mecklenburg, and Iredell has a pretty big voice, in my opinion, in some of those conversations, just because we're one of the, at the top of the list alongside of them. They're bigger, yes, but we have the growth is here, the visibility, the opportunity, because we're between, Charlotte and Raleigh, right? And so there's a lot of opportunity here for, I think, to get our voice out in that mix.
Absolutely.
Which I know she's doing and you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then that brings me to, we've got about 10 or 15 minutes here left to go in the show. And so take just a couple of minutes and tell me what sets Lisa Meyer apart from the other candidates for county commissioner, and why I as a voter should pick you. And then I'm going to do the same thing as me and my opponent.
Okay, great. Yeah, sure. So why Lisa? What I'll say that sets me apart, and everybody has great skill set. So there's, it's not a dig on anyone. It's what is unique about each person. And what I would say for myself, my business background brings already a track record of transparency, accountability, responsibility. I've done that all my career. And, this is a budget and accounting funds, and it's managed similarly. So all those skill sets are transferable. So that's one. The second is my style of management and leadership is really focused around trust. That trust which comes from transparency. I'm learning and networking with a lot of people. And so I can't sit here and say, hey, trust that I'm going to do the right thing and believe that. But I hope that my track record, should I get this role, help build that trust with every single person in the county. So that's my goal, because it's my style of leadership. So when it comes back to transparency and opportunity to educate everyone together, so that we are all aligned. We can agree to disagree. That's the best style of leadership, right? But once that agreement's made, let's get behind it and let's run fast and show everybody why Iredell County is such a great place to live and such a nice, balanced quality of life. So that's my comment.
I've always I've liked the saying that when two always agree, one is not needed. That's right.
That's right. Let the debate happen, but then you've aired it. You've got all the pieces out there, the facts, and the best decision will shake out.
Yeah, And so just to piggyback on what you're saying there, I guess the difference, and I have struggled with this. I just find it very difficult. I'm just not gonna. Don't even mention my opponent's name. But the differences are pretty stark between me and my opponent. I've spent my career as a law enforcement officer out there in the public view and enforcing the law. And I just feel very strongly that if you can't follow the law, you shouldn't be making the law. And that my opponent's had some problems with that, as far as the open meeting laws and things of that nature. That's just been a challenge. But the biggest part of why you should choose Todd over my opponent is the relationships, and it's that integrity that you were talking about. The General Assembly is so much. There's only 120 representatives there, and if you can't get along with 7 on the Board of Education, you're not going to be able to function in an environment where there's 120. And it is so relationship driven. You have really just got to be able to work, not only across the aisle, but within the aisle. There's just, so many personalities, and there are some very large personalities in the General Assembly.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So you say that, and I think more now, and maybe it's my perspective than years past, there's a lot of loud, strong opinions that are put out there, right? And sometimes I think people can either gravitate towards or gravitate away. It depends on your type of person. But where I see the biggest opportunity is people that can diffuse and get everybody to talk, calmly and share that. So leadership that can diffuse the defensive position or bring the tone down and get to a real resolution. That's a real leader.
You're never gonna strong arm your way in a room of 120. I can just tell you, it's just not going to happen. Even the Speaker of the House says, "Hey, we're gonna move in the direction that the caucus wants to go. You're not going to go just where I drag you, crying and screaming." I haven't been. I'm sure several leaders not been in your shoes. So. Can you just give us, what does the situation look like where you've been in an environment where the strong opinions are visible, and how does the group work to get to a common denominator there? We'll go in a room and shut the door.
Okay.
There's 71 members of the House Republican caucus. Vickie's caucus, I think there's 30 of them, maybe 31, something like that. And we literally just go in the room and shut the door and
lay it all out.
Just lay out your opinion on, and there are times, there's been a couple of times I didn't vote with the caucus, and what I've been told up there is, to vote my conscience first and my constituents, and then with my caucus. And so that's the order that I do that in. I'm not going to do anything I feel like is just fundamentally wrong.
Yes.
And then, obviously what the folks back home have been reaching out to me and sharing, expressing their opinions. Those things matter to me very much. And then where it can align with the caucus, then I want my very best to do that. But there's been a couple of, I'll take the quarter-cent sales tax down in Charlotte. I didn't vote for that because I felt like it was bad for Iredell County. It passed. They got it. I moved on. But that's an example of, and I tried not to make enemies out of that.
Sure.
I didn't want to.
You still have to work with them.
Yeah, you still got to work with those folks. And so, being somebody who can talk to people of a differing opinion, I think is still a value. And that if the people will reelect me to go back to the General Assembly, that's something that I'm going to try my best to do, is to advocate for them at every possible opportunity. And you can't do that if you don't get invited into the room, because you're such an obstructionist that people don't even want to deal with you. And so I think it's important that we pick somebody, and at this time it's me and my opponent. In 2 years it may be two totally other people. And I'm always going to want that person to represent, House District 95, who can go there and be an advocate for us as a community. I mean, that's the important thing.
Absolutely.
Just like if you're, on the county commission, you're advocating not just for Southern Iredell County, but for the entire
Absolutely.
county.
Absolutely. Very sensitive to it because, again, everybody has a different definition of quality of life and expectations for what makes them thrive here. And so I think that's incredibly important, to always have your ear to the ground and stay connected. So should I have that opportunity, I'm not going to stop networking. That network is what helps me keep a pulse on the community.
I can tell you, when you get elected, the networking opportunities are endless.
Okay. So you're saying it's going to it's going to elevate it. So
you're going to be going to more pancake breakfasts. I mean, I hadn't always been 260 pounds.
Well, that is actually a challenge. Everybody wants to do coffee or, that's a bit of a problem.
I tell people all the time, they say, hey, can we meet and talk? I'm like, you don't get looking this way by missing lunch.
I've noticed
7 days a week we're gonna find somewhere to eat at. Hey, so as we're wrapping this thing up, take just a few moments and talk about, I like to hear what brought people to where they're at.
Okay.
And it's just sort of a role model for you. Who was that person or a couple of people, that brought you to where you're at today, and you feel like you probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you. Nobody really asked that question. It's a good one. So it started obviously with my family. So I have to definitely give a lot of credit to my parents, and when we were growing up, there was kind of expectations on the paths that you take, and they didn't really care. Just get out and keep your head up and meet people, and so that was kind of the start of it, and it was really that push. But if I kind of go through my career, I had some incredible mentors, so I can give examples of the value of a mentor that is somebody that is, somewhat out of reach at the time, but gives you the guidance that makes you think differently than you would if you were just, running straight and fast. And, even in my career, I had a gentleman, we called him Big Bob. He was a great man, but he was the one that said, slow down for a minute. Make sure you're sitting in as many positions as you can to build your foundation this way before you build your position up. And that gives you an opportunity to know what you expect of people that are sitting in different roles, and also know that you're covering as many blind spots as you can, because it's hard to ask a question if you don't know what to ask. So that gave an opportunity to give you, take your blinders off and be wide with your view.
Right.
So he was an incredible mentor, several along the way. And then my family, my personal family, my husband. That's a whole story I'd love to tell somebody about someday. I love to share it because it's you could definitely write a Hallmark movie about it. But just their support and, even our initial move to Atlanta, that required my family to pick up and move. My husband quit his job. We moved. My kids left their schools. And then even coming here, we had to all agree to that. So I thank them so much.
How long have you been married?
To him, he's been 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah, 18 years. Yep. So
time flies when you're happy.
It does. It flies fast. So
yeah.
So,
I definitely would have to thank my wife. Tracy's has been a
huge support.
A huge person, to help me do the things that I like to do.
Yeah.
My children. But I'll have to say, when I was younger, it was, obviously my mom and my dad and my grandparents. I just had a really tight relationship with my grandma and my grandpa.
Yeah.
She was really sick when I was little, and so I stayed with her probably from about 4th grade to maybe 7th grade, a lot, so that my granddad could work. And so after she passed, I remember he always used to say to me, he said, you just lost your biggest cheerleader. Grandma's always going to support you and be behind you 100%.
Yeah.
And then I always felt like he just went right into those shoes and was really there to help me and guide me, and he taught me, to be courteous when you can, those types of things. There were a couple of teachers that I had that I really, that really pushed me. And, you always, when I was working at the community college, I always used to say to people, you don't ever remember the easy teachers. You remember the hard ones. That's right. Who pushed you to where you didn't think you could go. And there was a guy named Mr. Phillips, and he was so hard on me. I mean, he was just like,
he rode you, huh?
He really rode me hard. Miss Page, Miss Gardner. I mean, several different folks that Mr. Huffman. I came up through Mooresville graded schools. And graduated. And I just always felt like they really did a great job of looking after us and just trying to get us going in the right direction. And so there were a lot of people there who helped me to do that, and then professionally, after I got on with this, in law enforcement, Thomas Thompson was a huge influence in my life, and just really helped to guide me.
Sure.
And he really taught me, that you could be a go get 'em police officer. You didn't want to be lazy. You wanted to be out there working, but you needed to treat people right. And I've said to many people on my way to take them to jail, just the grace of God that I'm driving the car because
somebody else,
if somebody else could be up here. And so. Anyway, those are just some people that, really have impacted me.
That's interesting. You highlighted a lot about teachers, and we didn't really talk much about that, but just your stories and my stories about mentors and so on. It highlights the importance that we need to place on who's impacting our future leaders. And it really comes back to the teachers, the parents, the environment you create for them, and the mentor opportunities. And that's all. There we have it all here. Yeah. How we kind of coalesce that and massage that to elevate it even to a different level is our great opportunity. So.
Yeah. We're so fortunate.
Yes.
I mean, we just have a lot of really hardworking people out there. Whether it be at Iredell, Statesville, at some of our charter schools. I mean, there's just so many people out there doing the right stuff with our young people. And I got to go to a civics class the other day at Mooresville High School. And talked to them. I had a great time with that.
So you talked to them. You were in the class.
No.
Class. Okay. Let's talk about that time.
They're teaching me. But I had a great time with that, going down to Pine Lake and doing one hopefully next week. And so, those are just opportunities to interact with young people. And I felt like that when I was a kid, that there were people who were pouring into me, and I want to do that same thing back.
Absolutely.
And pour into some of our young people.
It's important.
It is. It is really important. Well, Lisa, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for inviting me.
Talk to you today and allowing the audience to get to know you better. And just one final reminder of that candidate forum on February 12th. That's at 6:30 over at the Ag Center.
I'll be there.
On Bristol Drive. Be there and come out there and give folks some honest answers about some tough questions that they're going to have for, what they're looking for in their next county commissioners.
Yes.
Yep. So we appreciate you joining us today. And thank you very much for listening in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Say what you want.
Thank you for tuning in to We're Just Saying with Senator Vickie Sawyer and co-host David Coble. We appreciate your time and input as we discuss the issues shaping North Carolina. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for more updates and insightful conversations. Take care and keep participating in the conversation.